Hello folks, today I'm going to do a demo of our newly released opt-in Query Copilot for Configure Schema. Configure Schema is our no-code wizard that allows you to map your data from our so-called dynamic sources, be it in Snowflake, Amazon S3, Google SecOps SIEM, Microsoft Sentinel, and almost any other lake, warehouse SIEM, or log management platform that Query supports. You can map that source data into our OCSF data model. Instead of needing to centralize your logs, instead of needing to invest in costly and brittle security pipeline tools or build your own, which will force you to incur additional operational overhead, Configure Schema gives you the ability to keep your source schema in that raw format and only map the essential data relevant to your security operations. After feedback from the market and from our customers and prospects, we released the Query Copilot for Configure Schema to vastly accelerate the speed to value of mapping and searching your data using Configure Schema. Today, I'm going to demonstrate how to map Okta authentication events or system logs stored in Snowflake. So the first thing that we need to do is fetch a sample from our table that I've already onboarded. And this will grab a sample data with all the columns as well as all of the values that are stored in these Okta logs. And if you're familiar with the system event logs, that's essentially the format they're in. So you could view them in tabular format as well as in JSON format. And next you'll go into the map data, and this is where you'll see the Query Copilot commands. The first one is to suggest the event class. The event class is a normalized event within the Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework, and it identified authentication. Now I'm going to time myself here to see just how fast I could do this. And then all you have to do is hit suggest mappings. And remember, as the tooltip suggests, to review all the mappings. Now, the Copilot is going to look at the columns, it's going to look at it relative to authentication, and then start to map it all based on the data type. So right off the bat, we got event type correct, which was called published. Email address was correctly identified as the actor.alternate ID. And then we have an IP address, and then as well as the regular ID, and then all we have to do is just map in the raw user agent. Now, Okta logs actually don't really have anything to identify other than the event title inside as to what it is. So we'll go ahead and start to map some of these. Now, we don't need a map action, but the activity ID, again, we'll just normalize off of the event type, and these are all going to be login events. And you continue to scroll down, you can see it properly identified the Boolean as MFA. We have our display message. It got both of our severities from our sample, info and medium, and that's all that's in my data set. As well as the outcome, all it identified was none, and that's okay. And then we could map something additional over here for the reason and status detail. Now I'll go over to actor.user, and that's the person who did the event. So again, you see that the alternate ID for the email address, their display name was correctly identified as full name and not as username. And their UID was also properly identified. The next area we want to see is the device. Device data is often captured. And we'll put in our device name. As well as if the device was managed. And this is why you actually need to check the mappings, because sometimes the model will not properly identify them. And then I already know from my source data source that the actual platform is identified inside of client.device. As a computer, so we'll just map that in as a laptop. And we'll check if there's any OS information, and it didn't get the OS, and that is fine. So we'll grab that in from the client user agent OS. The next area you want to see is the actual source endpoint, which was correctly identified. And then we'll go ahead and onboard the zone as well, which is also stored under the client. And then that's it. We'll hit save, and I'll stop my timer. And we successfully saved it. So this is just a quick demonstration of the Query Copilot for Configure Schema. In the future, we'll have more modifications made to it, as well as changing the overall experience of it. Now, our previous recommended time for mapping was under 15 minutes or less, and you could clearly see that we could get very, very well under that 15-minute mark. So thank you very much for your time today. Again, Jonathan Rao, VP Distinguished Engineer here at Query, the Federated Search Security Company.